This is the spiritual samurai scribe, and I make this video because I happen to have had a PTSD dream last night. It's something that I have been facing since I was 10 years old. Ever since I was 10 years old, I've been having these PTSD dreams centered around my SA trauma. And so this thing has been bothering me for a very long time, and what it does is that it's intended to steal your energy. That's one thing that I notice. And I have so many dreams in my mind. And it's like, here's the thing, I want to address this because this is the thing that makes it so hard to heal. Because when you go through these things, when you have a PTSD dream, right, it forces you to not only do you relive the trauma, sometimes it could be even more exaggerated, or it can include other elements that came along with that trauma, and it kind of makes you feel like it takes you back to that place, that dark place, There's so many PTSD dreams I've had having to do with my SA trauma, right? From different occasions of SA, because I've had multiple accounts, okay? And so there's that. And then there's the aspect of the spiritual attacks attached to that. So not only are we having PTSD dreams, but now we're having the spiritual attacks on top of that, because I look at these type of dreams, to me, because of the nature of it, because of how much it lowers your vibration so much. It takes you back to square one sometimes. It takes you back to when you were, for me, sometimes it almost takes me back to when I was 14. And I felt like I belonged to the darkness. We're not the only ones going through this thing, right? So I feel good talking about it because there was a time when I was silent about it, but I refused to be silent. And I understand very well what triggered this PTSD dream. And I'm not surprised by that. To me, I look at it as a sign of how strong that I've become over the years, because once upon a time, like I said, I've been having these type of attacks, right? Because it's really a spiritual attack. I've had that since I was 10, right? So I'm not going to go in detail. But some of these dreams, man, it's not something I want to talk about. But just know, I know what that feels like. And this is what makes it hard to heal. And for some of you guys struggle to heal because it's like you're forced to relive something, So when people try to tell you, oh, why don't you just get over it? It happened, 10, 20, 30 years ago, however long it is, right? They don't understand the subconscious mind. They don't understand this the spiritual attacks that's tied into it, because it's tied into the succubus incubus attacks as well. When you have these PTSD dreams, a lot of times it's intended to mess with your head. It's intended to make us give up on ourselves and to actually believe in the lies of the devil. And he had to send that spiritual attack in the form of a PTSD dream. He had to do that to lower our vibration, because he sees that we're healing, we're making progress, right? And so he does that to give us the illusion that, oh, we're not making progress. What's the point of healing? You see, I was falling into that thought process actually for the past few days now. So I caught myself thinking like that, and because that's a hopeless way of thinking. It's hopeless to think that what's the point of healing when I'm constantly gonna have to live with these wounds, And that right there, like I said, your mind, we have to protect it. We have to protect the kind of thoughts that come to our mind, because that is at the end of the day, that's what spiritual warfare is. It's a war against your mind and your autonomy and your spiritual sovereignty, because they want to take possession of your vessel so that they can destroy you ultimately. That is what it is. And like I said, when you live with the curse mark of SA, it's like you have that's a major wound that is stuck to you, right? And it doesn't go away, but what you can do is, you know, have control over it and don't allow it to dominate you. That's the only thing, right? But I understand that this thing is tough. You know, for some of us, we're not even supposed to be alive, right? For the longest, ever since this earth, ever since this planet, right, had life in it, the only thing that humans could think about is how to end life, how to get rid of life, how to destroy each other. You know what I mean? Not all humans, but certain type of humans that you might question. They might not even be human at this point, because if they can do that to people, if they can sit there and genocide and erase people and all this stuff, it's kind of like it's sickening to think, you know, like that people like that exist, but they've always existed doing that evil shit, you know. And I'm not gonna lie to you, man, like sometimes it's hard to maintain faith, and I know I need to keep my faith in God. I know that, but so when you wake up from a dream like that, right, this is what you have to keep in mind, is that, you know, the devil knows what's going to upset you. He knows how to trigger you. And what could be more triggering than to relive that SA trauma, on top of however the way they want to spin it. And, you know, it's like the devil is very sick. You know, the devil can do certain even psychological stuff, you know, or physical, right? That too. You know, he could manipulate, you know, what happens in this scenario to really make you snap, to really make you mad. It's like to make you really upset, to the point that you wake up with low energy. You notice that you wake up in a bad mood already. You don't even want to get up sometimes, but you have to, right? You have to be strong. But you see how exhausting that is? Do you see how it's easy to be spiritually exhausted after you just had that happen to you, right? And then it's like you're thinking to yourself, how long has it been? It's been like, what, 15 to 20 plus years, and you had this dream, and you're just like, why is this still kind of bothering me, you know? Now, thankfully for me, right? Thankfully for me, I didn't allow it to get to me today. So that's one thing I could take home, is that I'm glad that I didn't allow that to bother me. You know, I'm not allowing it to have power over me, you know. When you're having a PTSD dream, right, about where you're reliving your trauma, that feels so real, because your senses, your nervous system can feel everything, right? And so that tricks your brain into thinking that this is happening again. It's happening again, you know? Or maybe whether, you know, you're reliving that, or maybe it comes in the form of being persecuted by this person. This person wants to unalive you because they're mad because you never wanted them, and they're mad because they don't have access to violate you, basically. You know, crazy. Yeah, seriously, it's sick. So after a while, when you these are intense dreams, man. These are intense. Like, and I would even add this too, right? I would not be surprised if these type of dreams are tied to witchcraft. It triggers your nervous system to go on fight or flight mode during sleep. You know, you can only imagine how much is going on in your brain at that moment. It's like your body is acting like its life is at risk. And during a time when you're supposed to be resting, think about how exhausting that is. You know, we have been so drained of our energy throughout our life. It's not even funny. Think about that. Think about all the times that you've had these so-called witchcraft attacks, or these spiritual attacks. Because like I said, even if it's not induced by witchcraft, you know, it could still be spiritual attacks sent to you by Diablo, who knows your triggers, and he uses the image of your abusers to incite that rage out of you. And then, you know, there's certain things that take place that really mess with your head, and you end up waking up feeling fucked up, you know. And that's what they want to do. They want to lower your energy. They want to drain you. And I'm telling you, they really know how to do that. And it can be so upsetting. And like I said, going back to the exhaustion part, you know, if you're having these type of PTSD dreams, you know, think about how much energy we have spent, how much energy we've wasted on these things that have been imprinted in our psyche, to where now it's constantly replaying over and over and it doesn't end. And that is what PTSD is, especially if we're talking about complex trauma, chronic PTSD, which is something that is very hard to heal from, you know. I mean, it's a lifetime thing. You have to live with that for the rest of your life. Those PTSD dreams, it amplifies the severity of it, because it's making you relive something that pisses you off so much to the core that you just like, how can I make it stop? You know, you get to a point where you don't have these type of dreams as often, right? So for me, I had mine last night. Now, when was the last time I had a dream like that? It's been a while, actually. I can't even think of it. Maybe like about a year ago or so, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. It's been a while. So it's not something that I have often now. Back in my teen years, yes, I had them often. And I had not just those types, but even other type of dreams that were very like, you know, I wake up with sleep paralysis kind of thing. Just weirdness, you know, supernatural activity. I don't know what the hell's going on, you know? But now I do. But back then, I mean, when you don't know, it gives you a lot of anxiety, you know. But, you know, here's the thing though. PTSD dreams, you know, the way that you stay grounded is the fact that you have to really, really center yourself. You have to really sit back and think. You have to know how to be in the present moment. You know, you have to be, okay, where am I now? You know, because see, here's the thing about PTSD is that it keeps taking you back to the past. It forces you to live in the past all over again, over and over. That to me sounds like a curse. That does. It sounds like a curse. It sounds like insanity too, because insanity just keeps repeating itself over and over, and you just don't know what to do. And that's how people lose their mind. It's easy to get lost in the dream realm when you have that kind of thing happening, because they know how to trigger you to such a point where it's like those emotions you feel is so real, right? Even though you're releasing all of that energy in the dream and not in real life. Can you imagine that? Think about that. Think about all the times we have wasted our energy having these type of dreams where we're running away from this threat. We're running away from somebody with a deadly weapon. We're running away from, you know, things like that. Or it can evolve into you actually fighting these individuals in the dream. Maybe in the dream you start beating the shit out of them. I know I have, you know. You know what? Let's put in an empowering story, right? Because in real life, you know, I remember once upon a time, I would have dreams. I went from having dreams about being persecuted. I had dreams about being chased by this person, and then it evolved into a dream I had. Well, how long ago was this? I'd say about 4 years ago or so. I had a dream that I was beating the living shit out of the person that had saved me. And I had a couple dreams like that. You know, my fists were like cinder blocks. It had the weight of it. And then I was like, I just, you know, took care of that, you know. I won't go in details, but I fucked them up in the dream. And I felt good about that, because I felt like for once now I regained my dignity. I regained my power, and rightfully so, you know, because that right there, you know, you know what's so crazy, man? When I was doing that, you know what's so crazy is that after I did that, I realized that this individual had no soul, because I was looking into his empty eyes. There was no eyeballs. It was just like a skull, you know what I mean? a skull, but it still has skin, you know what I mean? So it's like you could see like there's no eyeballs. It's like there's no soul, and it was empty. It was like this person was like they had nothing inside of them, you know, like literally an empty vessel. And that's what I saw. And then that's when I realized in the dream, it was teaching me that I've been wasting all this energy on this person. No matter how bad I beat this person up, guess what? They don't even exist anyway because they're evil. And one thing about evil people is that they do not exist in the higher realm. And when somebody doesn't exist in the higher realm, right, that means they're not gonna inherit eternal life. That means they're only alive in this pitiful realm, right, to do what they do. That just shows that their main purpose is to bring damage and destruction on the earth. They're not even real people. Your SA abusers are soulless. They are empty vessels full of evil, and they don't exist in the higher realms. They can only exist here because this is what? Earth, right? The devil is to and fro upon the earth, right? So he's everywhere doing all kinds of damage and destruction. And so, like I said, they only exist in this plane of existence, but they cannot ascend. They're not made to ascend. They have no soul. So all this energy, what I learned from that dream is that I had been wasting so much of my energy trying to fight against something that doesn't even exist because they don't exist in the higher realm. We will not see them when we go to heaven. You know what I mean? When you get to that point. Yeah. So again, that lets me know that the more we elevate spiritually, the more we start to have a higher vibration from our healing, from, you know, focusing on higher things, focusing on, like I said, it goes back to focusing on God, right? And focusing on, you know, the power of love. I'm helping myself by helping you guys, and then vice versa. We help each other out by spreading this powerful healing energy to basically be able to go on with life and to make sure that we don't cut our life short. I'm really trying to transmute that energy. I'm trying to really, you know, alchemize every time I feel that way. I try to change that, you know, I try to flip it and, you know, try to make myself feel grounded, like remembering where I'm at right now, remembering my purpose. And I think that's why I love making these videos, because these videos are a constant reminder of my purpose. And in a way, it does keep me grounded, you know. And I'm going to try to focus more on, you know, having a therapeutic approach to this, because it really feels amazing. I love it. I absolutely love it, because I get to a point like I'm not even thinking about this PTSD dream. The PTSD dream is like they try to piss me off, but let me tell you something. Understand that the devil would do anything to try to piss you off. That's not going to stop. It's a matter of us understanding the difference between the illusion and the reality, right? So it's like they're trying to use something that happened in reality, because in reality, you were abused, you were traumatized. You see, they know that, but they play on that. They play on that pain that you feel from those experiences, and then they place it in a dream, right? And the dream is pretty much an illusion, right? Now, we're not talking about divine dreams here. We're talking about actual, like, at this point, these are PTSD dreams, spiritual attacks. That's basically what it is. So in this case, the devil is using something that is real, right? Your pain, your trauma is real, is putting that in your dream so that you can constantly relive that distress over and over again. That way you become spiritually exhausted, and that is how they drain your energy. That's another way that they do it, you know, because it feels real, because what you felt was real, what you've been through is real, but they place it in a dream, which is a place where it's not reality, you know. It's in a whole nother place outside of reality. But see, it's very easy for you to succumb to losing your sense of reality and thinking that this is a real thing that you're experiencing over and over again. And that's how people go crazy. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, because me personally, I feel that too. I feel that same pain. And because I try to keep myself aware. And when you keep yourself aware, that's a form of grounding. That's a form of, okay, this is what this is what that is. Being able to understand and articulate all these different elements and how they are trying so hard to keep us down, keep our energy low. And most importantly, they want to keep us from continuing on with our purpose and our path, that God has given us. So there's so many things. Ultimately, all they're trying to do is cut our connection with the Most High God. That's really what the main purpose is. That's why they keep doing these things. They keep attacking spiritually. Right, that's basically what it is. We're trying to keep our spirits alive. We're trying to keep ourselves up. It's a crazy world, it's a very crazy world. And we have to make sure that we don't go crazy with it. So, all right, I know they try to piss me off with that dream, but I won't let them get to me, because it's the same old thing. It's the same old tactic. They used a part of your reality and then they merged it into the dream in order to cause more distress, to reawaken that PTSD and to basically reopen that wound. You see, they want to keep your wounds open. They cannot have you healing those wounds. They want to keep you in a state like that. They want to prevent you from growing. And this is just a sign that you are on the right track of elevating. They really don't want you to do that. They want to keep you where they want to keep you, where they can control you, right? But there's certain elements in your dreams that will let you know, right? It'll give you sometimes it'll give you an update of how strong you've become, even though sometimes these dreams could still piss us off. But one thing I could say is that when I look at the dream from a different perspective after having this talk, is that I could clearly tell that besides the parts that pissed me off, there was a part where I'm like, at the end of the day, this person has no power over me. And whether or not they are thinking about how I got away and how I managed to become the person I am today, an empowered person, whatever the case is, the fact that they have no control over me. I have literally dismantled all their tactics, and I'm going to continue to do so. I'm going to continue to speak on certain things pertaining to what I'm learning and what I'm healing from, and to help and empower others, right? To help you guys out there. And it also helps me too. Trust me, this helps me just as much as it helps you. I feel great, and my purpose is to make all of you feel just as great as I feel. So that's the thing. But I understand where this spiritual attacks are, because it's really a spiritual attack at the end of the day. And so I already know. I expect it. I knew this type of thing in this line of work. I mean, it's gonna come with that kind of thing, right? So I'm not gonna say I'm surprised. I'm really not, But here's the thing. I might as well go with it. I mean, I might as well continue to do what I do, because it's like, what else can I do? I have to live with this. I have to live with this for the rest of my life, right? I have to live with the scars and wounds. I might as well make something meaningful out of it. This person has no power over me, and I understand that. I understand that there's certain... I think I know exactly what video induced that, and it's got to be the one about... what was it? Intense. I will never stay silent. Infinite rage after, infinite rage after SA trauma. That video, right? I'm pretty sure the devil doesn't like that video. And, that's fine. Because again, whether or not my abuser is thinking about me, I don't care about that. The devil is, the devil, he is the devil, right? But the devil is using, it could another thing too, right? Don't think too much about it. That's another thing I want to say, is that don't think too much about, you don't want to overthink about these things, because see, that's another way they drain you. When you constantly try to overthink, right? Oh, is my abuser thinking about me? Is my abuser trying to look for me? Or is my you start thinking like, you start to get paranoid, you know what I mean? You start to feel paranoid, and that's what they want. They want you to be paranoid after these dreams. Here's the thing. Whether or not your abuser is thinking about you, or they're thinking about coming after you or whatever because they're so mad that you won't allow them to abuse you, right? Whatever the case is, guess what? It could be that, or it could be that the devil is using their image, right? The image of your abuser to trigger you, because the devil knows what's going to bother you. And anything to hurt you, the devil will use. So keep that in mind, you know? Don't allow them to have power over you, because they don't. They really don't. So let's keep ourselves lifted. Let's keep ourselves strong and mentally healthy at all times. So stay grounded, take good care of yourself, and I appreciate all of you. Much love to everyone.